And team can hit record. There we go. As a friendly reminder, we do record all of our ELO-P Academy sessions so that way folks can go back and rewatch this and take note. And so thank you. Thank you, team. So if you're just joining us, welcome to the Fall 2024 ELO-P Academy, Building Quality Expanded Learning Programs. Today is the final session of our ELO-P Academy, supporting our youngest learners with quality expanded learning programs. And trust me, y'all, you're in for a treat. We have some amazing presenters today. And before we jump into the bulk of the workshop, I just have a few slides to share with you. First one. Bum, bum, bum. Happy birthday, Jeff Davis. Jeff is our executive director of the California After School Network and really does an amazing job creating the conditions for our team to thrive. And so just want to say, Jeff, thank you for all you do for our team and our field and all the children and youth and families in our communities. Thank you.
It's my honor. Thank you for the birthday wishes.
All right. So as I mentioned, this is our final and our fourth and final workshop of our ELO-P, our Fall ELO-P Academy. If you've joined us before, we typically offer our Fall Academy and then we offer a Spring Academy as well. And so wanting to just take a moment to recap what the journey that we've been on since last Wednesday. We started our day off on Wednesday, September 11th, hearing from Malia Villarreal, Leslie Lugo from the California After School Network, and Iqbal Badwals from the California Department of Ed, who provided a really comprehensive overview of policy updates and how folks can use from policy to practice and implement high quality expanded learning programs. So thank you to our presenters from day one of our workshop academy. On our second day, last Thursday, September 12th, we explored a little bit more about what inclusive expanded learning environments look like, feel like, why they're needed, how they can be created, what are the resources that can support the work that we all do to be more inclusive in our programs. So we heard from Jeff Davis, our executive director from the California After School Network. We had partners from Supporting Inclusive Practices, SIP. We had a wonderful presentation from Janelle Mercado and also our partners from Open Access from CDE, Leah Padilla and Lori Balsano Wright. So all of these workshop recordings and resources are available on our website. You can scan the QR code here or use the bit.ly. And then yesterday, we took some time talking about how folks can leverage multiple funding sources, braid all of the wonderful funding sources that we have to create one type of like a comprehensive program. And so we had two wonderful presenters, Celia Cisneros from Le Grand Elementary School District and also Nicole Theus from ABC Unified School District. And then on top of that, right, we heard from you all that you want to hear more from the field. And each workshop, we had a field spotlight where they got to present a promising practice related to the topic of the workshop. So shout out to Tracy Humphreys from Keys Union School District, who presented field spotlights on day one's workshop. From Chen Kong Wick, who jumped in last minute. We had a schedule change and Chen was like, I got you. And, really talked about how they're providing inclusive summer programs for students with diverse needs and abilities. And then yesterday we had a treat from Esmeralda Garcia, who really walked us through how they're braiding multiple funding sources to create one comprehensive program to meet the needs of their community. So shout out to all of our presenters. We could not have done this without any of you. And we look forward to continuing our work together and also to our Spring Academy. So thank you very much. And again, you can access those workshops and recordings on our website. Workshop resources, sorry about that. Okay, so jumping in for today. We will kick off our workshop session in just a few moments. We'll offer time for a few closing comments, and then we will spend some time with our field spotlights today. And then we have the opportunity to engage in interactive breakout sessions. It's a choose your own adventure. And so there will be 11 breakout rooms that folks will be able to jump into if you're interested in learning more about specific resources that will be lifted throughout the workshop content. And then our Zoom session ends at 12 p.m. today. Friendly reminder, if you did not attend our past sessions, we use our Zoom spaces. Our academies really embrace a shared learning space. And so we will be dropping a resource doc in the chat. It's a great place for you to jot down notes, quotes, ideas, things that might resonate with you from today's workshop. It also links you to a lot of general ELO-P and expanded learning resources that you can see on, I think, pages 2 and 3. And also just noting that due to security reasons, folks are unable to download the chat. So again, this is why we have that one resource doc where we'll drop in resources and everyone can have all the things and stay connected. So, and then finally, our presentation materials will be available shortly after our workshop. If folks are interested, fall ELO-P office hour registration is open. And so mark your calendars. We kick off fall office hours at the end of this month. And so hoping that you all are able to join us. And stay connected with us, right? We offer a lot of newsletters that help folks connect to resources, events that are coming up, promising practices. You can also follow us on all the socials here. So you can scan this QR code that will take you to our link tree and access additional resources. And finally, we have our system of support for expanded learning. This is a whole network of folks who are here to support our field. And so I encourage you to scan the QR code or you can use the bit.ly. There is always someone available who can provide support. And before we jump in, we offer this as a moment to kind of get level set with our mental models and how we're jumping into the content, right? And so this is CAN's expanded learning pedagogical methodology. That's kind of a mouthful. So I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud. And you can follow along. We believe every child, youth, and the adults that live, love, and work with them deserve just and affirming spaces and opportunities that enrich, empower, enlighten, educate, and elevate them. We know learning happens in every context, and young people are assets in supporting their own learning and co-creating the solutions to the issues and challenges they face. Expanded learning and out-of-school time spaces can be cultivated by anchoring in some core beliefs that shared mindsets, excuse me. We are rooted in love, and love is shown in our actions and our words. We are asset anchored and driven. We are aspirational in our mindsets, our words, and actions. We are connected by our differences because that is what gives us strength and creates our collective. The appreciation of every culture, language, and lived experience is what we leverage to grow and nurture our collective spaces. We make decisions based on elevating the intrinsic gifts, talents, and wisdom of those closest to the problems we work collaboratively to solve. And we learn by doing, and we grow by reflecting on that learning. Thank you. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today, focusing on how we can support our youngest learners with quality expanded learning programs. So welcoming Jennifer Osalbo and Nicole Seymour from the Early Learning Division from the California Department of Ed. Thank you so much for being here. I'll go ahead and pass it off to you.
Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting us to present today. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. The administrator from our office, Shanna Birkholz-Vasquez, whose beautiful picture you saw, was unable to attend this morning because she had a last-minute conflict that required her immediate attention. So she asked us to relay her apologies. I'm Nicole Seymour, and I'm a consultant in the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Implementation and Support Office. Presenting with me today is my fellow consultant, Jennifer Osalbo. So next slide, please. Here's an agenda of what we're going to be covering this morning. We'll start with a general overview of Universal Pre-Kindergarten, or UPK, and ELO-P. We will move into the Preschool Transitional Kindergarten Learning Foundations, or the PTKLF. Then we will be moving on to strategies and promising practices to successfully incorporate TK students into ELO-P. We'll provide you some resources, and as Melissa mentioned, we'll have time for some breakout rooms and field spotlights. Next slide, please. So I'm going to begin right now with an overview of UPK. Next slide, please. UPK and ELO-P are part of California's universal investments in California schools. They're part of California's efforts to transform schools to meet the needs of all children and set them up for success in learning and in life. Implementation of UPK and ELO-P alongside other investments in community schools, professional learning, anti-bias education, DLL supports, mental health programs, and universal meals presents a historic opportunity to transform California's schools that support the whole child. California's education system has historically not served many children and families well, and our work is centered on transforming California's schools so that they work for all children and families. Next slide, please. As we're implementing UPK, we also want to build on the gains children make before kindergarten. This is why CDE has started a preschool to third grade, or P3 alignment initiative, and how important it is to us that children's pre-K experiences are built in the early elementary years and children's experience a seamless transition from one grade to the next. Next slide, please. There we go. I was like, wait a minute, I just did that one. UPK serves as a bridge between the early learning and care system and the transitional kindergarten through 12th grade, or TK-12 system. We know a strong start in pre-K is only beneficial if it is sustained, and we can't deliver on the promise of UPK without the alignment and support of the early grades, reinforcing and building off of children's pre-K experiences. Our vision for UPK at the California Department of Education is that California will provide a strong early start to inclusive education through high quality, joyful, rigorous, developmentally informed, and coherent preschool through third grade learning opportunities to ensure children thrive in school and in life and are college and career ready. Next slide, please. Here are the birthday windows for students to be eligible for TK. So get ready, they are getting younger and younger. Between 2022 and 23, and now the window for TK birthdays increases by a few months, instead of just the fall birthdays that were originally the window for TK students. Currently, 2024-25 children are eligible for TK. They turn 5 between September 2nd and June 2nd, and that is inclusive of June 2nd. Children are eligible as an early enrollment child in TK if they turn 4 between June 3rd and September 1st. Early enrollment TK is optional and at the discretion of the LEA. In 2025-26, LEAs are required to make TK available to all children who will have their 4th birthday by September 1st of the school year. Next, please. The graphic on the right is from the UPK work group, illustrating how children are at the center of our work within the context of their culture and the community. Children's learning is affected not only by the preschool program they attend and their preschool educators, but also by the family, culture, and the communities to which they belong, by the ecosystem of policies, investments, infrastructure, beliefs, and partnerships that surround them, and by the intersection and interconnectedness of these influences. Now, Jennifer will discuss the legislative intent of ELO-P. Next slide, please.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Hi, everyone. So the legislative intent of ELO-P is that all local educational agencies offer all unduplicated students in classroom-based instructional programs access to comprehensive after-school and intersessional expanded learning opportunities. This applies to all pupils in transitional kindergarten and kindergarten through grade 6. And the Ed Code section is on the slide. Next slide. And here's the definition of an unduplicated student. So that we're using the same definition from another section of Ed Code. So an unduplicated pupil means a pupil enrolled in a school district or charter school who is classified as an English learner and is eligible for a free or reduced price meal or is a foster youth. Next slide. All right. Expanded learning must be offered to all TK students, and the ratio for TK students to staff is no more than 10 to 1. This is not to be confused with the 1 to 10 ratio for TK classrooms that begins in 2025-26. Mixed student groups that include any TK or K students must adhere to this 1 to 10 staff to student ratio requirement, and the 1 to 10 staff to student ratio should be used even if the majority of the students in the group are in first grade or higher. Next slide. Educators play an essential role in educating our children. It requires a unique skill set with a foundational understanding of how to support young children's developmental needs. It requires expertise in designing joyful learning activities that captivate children's natural curiosity. And expanded learning programs are designed to provide joyful learning opportunities and with additional support are well suited to serve preschool age students. Next slide. So in the next section, I'm going to go over the newly released Preschool Transitional Kindergarten Learning Foundations, or PTKLF. Next slide. The PTKLFs were released last month, and they describe the knowledge and skills that most children ages 3 to 3.5 develop in a high-quality early education program. They include transitional kindergarten, California State Preschool Program, or CSPP, and other state-funded, federally funded, or private preschools in California. And they can be accessed at our website, and there's the link on the slide. Next slide. The PTKLFs align to the kindergarten standards. They have an increased alignment with kindergarten standards in the domains of language and literacy, math, and science. They provide a developmentally appropriate stepping stone between preschool, transitional kindergarten, and kindergarten. And some instances overlap in the later foundation, but it aligns to research on what children can do between the ages of 4 to 5.5. So it's a good way to learn about milestones and what you can expect from children in these age groups. And the PTKLFs seamlessly build on children's skills across grade levels. Next slide. The introduction to the PTKLFs outline 9 guiding principles for the implementation of the foundations, which we see as our pillars or values in how learning and development should be nurtured at this age. Guiding principle 1 is that supportive, responsive, and consistent relationships with adults provide children with a secure base where they feel confident to explore, engage with others, and seek support when needed. In emotionally safe and secure relationships, children have opportunities to explore and follow their interests, learn how to engage and communicate effectively, express their emotions, and build positive relationships with adults and other children. The second principle is that we know children come from a wide variety of racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds and life experiences. By offering responsive and inclusive learning environments, early education programs value, respect, and build on the unique backgrounds and prior experiences of each child. Next slide. Third, children's home languages are an asset and establish a strong foundation for learning and development across domains. In the PTKLF, we acknowledge that multilingualism is a strength with broad benefits, including linguistic, social, and cognitive growth. Nurturing the home language builds connections with family and community, supports children's social and identity development, and sets a foundation for academic success. Equitable early childhood practices support multilingualism as a long-term goal and an integral part of children's early learning environments. Number 4, family and community partnerships create meaningful connections and support children's sense of belonging. Meaningful collaborations with families are built on respectful, reciprocal, trusting relationships in which families and teachers share responsibility for the well-being and education of children. Teachers in early education programs engage families through culturally and linguistically affirming interactions with the desire to learn with and from families about their goals, values, and aspirations. Reciprocal relationships between teachers and families build meaningful two-way collaboration and homeschool connections that support teachers and families to build meaningful two-way collaborations and a sense of belonging for children and families. And then number 5, children's learning and development are integrated across domains. Although the PTKLFs are organized in distinct domains of learning and development, the learning of any skill or concept does not occur in isolation. Children develop skills and concepts across domains within meaningful, rich learning experiences. Furthermore, the skills or abilities children learn in one domain support the learning and development of skills in other domains. For example, children's growing understanding and use of language helps them learn about new ideas and concepts, express their emotions, solve problems, and connect with others. Next slide. 6, each child is unique and develops in their own way and at their own pace. Some children may exhibit competencies that go beyond the level described in a particular foundation, while others may need more time to reach that level. As children develop, they may show more advanced competencies in one domain than another. How children go about learning also varies from child to child. A child's individual learning path is influenced by many factors, including their temperament, racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic experiences, living conditions, personal strengths, interests, abilities, dispositions, and whether they experience or have experienced toxic stress or trauma. Effective teaching practices build on individual children's unique strengths and offer learning experiences that are meaningful and adapted to support children's diverse strengths, interests, and needs. Number 7, children have different ways of knowing and may express their knowledge and skills across domains through different means and modalities. Children also use different ways of communicating, both verbally and non-verbally. Multilingual learners use their home languages, English, or a combination of all the languages they're learning to express themselves and make meaning. Children may communicate ideas and express their understanding, for example, through drawing, modeling, movement, and role play. Children with disabilities may use different communication modalities, such as sign language, nonverbal gestures, a picture exchange system, or an electronic assistive technology communication device. Next slide. Number 8, play is a primary context for learning and creating joyful learning spaces. Play experiences provide a powerful context for social interactions, creativity, self-expression, thinking, problem-solving, and inquiry-based learning. Playful learning experiences from free play to guided play facilitate children's engagement and maximize their attentiveness and self-regulation. Through providing high-quality early learning environments, early education programs value play and offer children a balance of child-led and teacher-guided play activities to promote children's interest and engagement in their learning. And lastly, number 9, intentional teaching enhances children's development through planned learning experiences designed to support individual children. Teachers intentionally use their knowledge of children's individual development, interests, and racial, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds to design diverse learning environments that allow children's meaningful explorations and playful learning. Teachers are intentional in their efforts to support children's learning in areas identified by the PTKLFs through child-directed learning and teacher-facilitated learning experiences. They are flexible in accommodating differences in children's learning strengths, interests, and needs. Next slide. So these are the 9 domains of the PTKLF. First one is approaches to learning, social and emotional development, language and literacy, which includes the foundational language development and English language development if the child's learning multiple languages, math, science, physical development, health, history, social science, and visual and performing arts. And those can all be accessed on our webpage. Next slide. All right, so the approaches to learning domain is the brand new domain in the PTKLFs.
Make it louder.
So this domain was added because of the importance of these types of approaches to learning skills, such as executive functioning skills and their predictiveness for later school readiness. Including this domain also aligns with other existing early learning standards, like the Head Start Early Learning Outcomes Framework. So included in the approaches to learning skills are that they describe children's growing abilities to take initiative in learning, show persistence, regulate their behavior, focus their attention, adjust to changing demands in the environment, and collaborate with others during play and other activities. These skills are particularly important for school readiness and support children's adjustment to formal schooling, both socially and academically. The PTKLFs in this domain describe the approaches to learning for skills of children ages 3 to 5.5 in early learning programs. Next slide. So here's an example of how the foundations look. So with the substrand numbered, in this case it's 1.3, and that indicates that it's the first strand of motivation to learn, and the third substrand is engagement. And then the foundation statement is underneath this label, and that describes the skills children can demonstrate in the early learning foundation. The column on the left is the early learning, the column on the right is the later foundation. The early foundation for ages 3 to 4.5 is that they actively engage by focusing and concentrating on activities for brief periods of time with adult support. And then the later foundation is that they actively engage by focusing and concentrating on activities for longer periods of time with less adult support. Below that foundation, or below those foundations, are statements that are general about the foundation. It's listed below in the bullet just for the accessibility of the slide, but that says at the very bottom, in general, a child may engage in an activity for 3 to 12 minutes in the early foundation age range, and as long as 8 to 20 minutes in the later foundation range. A child's level of engagement depends on a variety of factors, including individual characteristics, level of interest in an activity, the learning environment, and the support they receive from adults. And then when you look at the PTKLFs, below that are the examples, which are in the table. So in the table, it says the example for the early foundation is a child spends 10 minutes of playtime building a tower of blocks alongside peers. And then for the later foundation, a child spends about 15 minutes of free playtime playing with magnetic tiles, paying close attention to the house structure they're building. So that's an example of how the foundations look like when you look at them. Next slide. So some of the uses of the PTKLFs include setting learning goals for children, acknowledging that to do this, you first need to meet children where they are and think about where they are on the developmental continuum and scaffold them to meet those goals. Planning learning environments and teaching strategies to support scaffolding, selecting and implementing curricula, designing and using different assessments, enhancing preschool to third grade alignment, and informing program continuous quality improvement. So those are the brand new PTKLFs, and I'm going to turn it back to Nicole.
Thank you, Jennifer. This last section that I'm going to go over, excuse me, are the strategies and promising practices to successfully incorporate TK students into expanded learning programs. Next slide, please. So classrooms with TK and K students should be in close proximity to restrooms, especially since this age has only recently learned how to control their bladders and bowels. Locations should be close to parent drop-off and bus loading zones to allow families to assist their students with arrival and dismissal quickly and easily. This space, including storage, casework, and learning stations in these classrooms, should be functionally designed for use in free play and structured activities. So for example, the classroom shelves should be deep and open to allow for frequent use of manipulative materials. The facilities for windows, marking boards, sinks, drinking fountains, and furniture should be appropriate heights for students in the TK age. Classrooms should be designed to allow supervision of all areas of the classroom as well as outdoor play yards. Play yard designs should provide a variety of activities to develop children's gross motor skills. Developmentally informed materials, sensory tables, water, sand, and other sensory materials, manipulatives, dramatic play areas, age-appropriate books, blocks, age-appropriate puzzles and games, a cozy corner for children to rest are all really good additions to your facilities. The outdoor play space should be appropriate for 4-year-old children and have soft padding below the structures. Next slide, please. So full disclosure, the CDE does not endorse any one curriculum. Here are some that we have heard are commonly used in this age range. So you can take a look at the slide, kind of see some of the examples there. There are very few curricula that pay sufficient attention to all important domains of development for 4-year-old children. So your program will likely need to comprise a combination of curricula and other learning activities and instructional approaches. Additionally, the curricula, learning activities, and instructional approaches should be aligned with the newly updated PTKLF that Jennifer just covered. Programs should implement developmentally appropriate, research-based early childhood curricula. Choosing a curriculum or a combination of curricula, you should ensure that there are opportunities to connect learning topics to student experience and culture, to support conceptual understanding and motivation for learning, integrate social emotional skills across content areas, and develop metacognitive abilities. These goals are best achieved through a combination of child-directed play with accompanying teacher-guided activities, where developing home language skills and building social emotional competencies in both indoor and outdoor settings are the foundation of a child's learning experience. Curriculum can be comprehensive or focus on one domain, such as literacy, math, or social emotional development. Next slide, please. Yes. Transitional kindergarten offers children the opportunity to develop essential academic and social emotional skills in a nurturing and developmentally appropriate environment. The primary goal of TK enrichment is to provide a solid foundation that supports children's growth as they prepare to embark on their educational journey. One of the key areas of focus in TK enrichment is pre-writing activities. At this stage, it's important to develop the fine motor skills that are necessary for writing. Activities such as tracing shapes, using tweezers to pick up small objects, and manipulating Play-Doh help build hand strength and coordination. These skills are vital as children begin to explore the use of writing tools like pencils, crayons, and markers. Through drawing and scribbling exercises, children are encouraged to express their creativity, laying the groundwork for letter formation. Teachers can incorporate multisensory approaches, such as using sand trays, finger painting, or chalkboards to make the practice of forming letters engaging and fun. Equally important are pre-reading activities, which help children develop foundational skills needed for reading. Phonemic awareness is a critical component, and activities like rhyming games, clapping out syllables, and matching initial sounds in words play a significant role in this area. Storytelling and interactive read-aloud sessions are also essential, as they help develop listening skills, expand vocabulary, and spark a love for reading. During these sessions, children are encouraged to predict outcomes, discuss characters, and ask questions, making the reading experience more dynamic. Letter recognition is another crucial aspect of pre-reading, and activities such as alphabet puzzles, flashcards, and letter hunts are effective ways to help children recognize and name letters. By connecting letter recognition to sounds and words, children begin to understand the relationship between letters and language. In addition to pre-writing and pre-reading, TK enrichment places a strong emphasis on critical thinking activities and project-based learning. Problem-solving games such as simple puzzles and matching exercises encourage children to think critically and develop problem-solving skills. Teachers can use open-ended questions to prompt children to explain their thinking and reasoning, fostering a deeper understanding of the concepts being explored. Sorting and categorizing activities where children sort objects by color, shape, or size help to develop logical thinking and an understanding of patterns and relationships. Additionally, exploring cause and effect through hands-on experiments, such as mixing colors or building block towers, allows children to make predictions, observe outcomes, and discuss their findings. STEAM activities, or science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, are good content areas to support critical thinking skills. Cooperative learning activities are another essential component of TK enrichment, as they help children develop important social skills. Group projects, such as collaborative art activities or building with blocks, teach children the value of teamwork, communication, and sharing. Circle time discussions provide an opportunity for children to engage in group conversations, where they learn to listen to others, to take turns, and to share their ideas. These discussions help children develop social skills and appreciate diverse perspectives, something very important in our world today. Peer learning is also encouraged, where children have the chance to explain concepts or tasks to each other. This not only enhances understanding, but also builds confidence as children learn from their peers. By engaging in a balanced approach to enrichment, children are better equipped to succeed in kindergarten and beyond. Parental involvement plays a crucial role in this process, as reinforcing these activities at home can further support a child's growth. Ultimately, the goal of TK enrichment is to lay a strong foundation that will support children as they continue their educational journey, setting them up for future success. Next slide, please. My favorite. Play is a critical concept to aligning developmentally appropriate practice and coherence across the early years. Play is the most natural way for children to explore, discover, and learn. Play-based learning supports children's learning and development across cognitive, social, and emotional and physical domains. These are all foundational domains that can be included in the classroom by utilizing preschool through third grade strategies to ensure a combination of child-directed, educator-guided, and educator-directed experiences. On a continuum, play in every young child's classroom can and should include every type of play. If we take a look at this graphic, we can go from the child-directed, where it's free play. This is often what we see in classrooms, is that the educator observes, reflects, and ensures the availability of time, space, and materials that are responsive to children's interests. And then we move on to inquiry. This is where an educator may extend child-initiated ideas, interests and explorations by asking questions and provide opportunities for investigation. It's one of my favorite types of play. Moving up in the continuum, collaborative, bit more educator guided. Educator uses opportunities to play with children to incorporate targeted skill development into their play. So maybe supporting math skills by introducing pretend money into a children's grocery store play. Moving up to playful learning, the educator designs targeted learning activities that are play-based. So for example, putting on a puppet show or conducting a scavenger hunt. Finally, learning games. The educator engages children in prescribed activities with rules designed to facilitate specific skill development, usually in literacy and math. So there might be matching games, dice games, or word games. And in my experience, matching games are a hit with this age, so highly recommend. Our youngest learners thrive when more of their time is spent engaged in play-based learning activities that are child-directed. CDE is dedicated to supporting educators as they grow their classroom strategies to support playful learning in the P3 classrooms that not only promotes active engagement to increase opportunities for learning, but in also inclusivity, creativity, and joyful activities as children explore and learn through the most natural way for them, which is play. Next slide, please. So the next slide is all about how to structure your day with play at the center. This graphic depicts our playful learning tree, which explores what instructional time can and should look like in a UPK classroom that embraces play-based learning strategies. Although this tree focuses on preschool, we know that similar strategies support learning across the P3 continuum. As our graphic highlights, learning thrives in an environment that celebrates and affirms cultural and linguistic diversity, actively combats racism and pursues equity, embraces inclusion, and promotes belonging for each and every child. The CDE is committed to providing educators with the tools and resources to incorporate more play in all areas of the classroom, including learning centers, small group, math and literacy instruction, music, movement and mindfulness, read alouds, and community building and teacher modeling, which are all included in the leaves of the tree. And it is important to note the playful learning tree, like all learning in early childhood, is rooted in strengthening home language skills and building social emotional skills for all children. Our youngest learners thrive when at least 50% of instructional time relies on child-directed playful learning activities, such as those that occur in learning centers, with the remaining time spread across educator-guided or educator-directed playful learning activities, such as those available through whole group or small group contexts. I will also say in my own playful classrooms, I noticed a huge decrease in behavior issues with children when play was the center of their educational experience. So that's just my personal note for you. Next slide, please. All right, toileting support. This is a hot topic right now. California is a local control state, which is why our guidance indicates local educational agencies, or LEAs, determine how to address the needs of a non-toilet trained, age-eligible TK student to ensure they are able to attend TK and kindergarten classes. To support educators and staff with this guidance, the CDE has created several resources to support LEAs, including a slide deck, a recorded webinar, and a developmentally appropriate toileting practices toolkit in PDF form. The image you're seeing on your screen is a sample from the toolkit that you can print and use in your own classroom. The information provided in the toolkit is extensive and meant to provide best practices for supporting toileting independence. This includes ensuring health and safety, supporting a positive social emotional climate, providing opportunities for toileting independence, providing direct instruction on and support for toileting practices, partnering with families, supporting children with disabilities or special medical needs, avoiding exclusion, and supporting staff through leadership buy-in. Toilet training is a developmentally appropriate skill to focus on and can be incorporated within the daily routine for all children in the program. CDE recognizes that LEAs should be able to make important determinations about toileting practices and practices at the local level because of the variance in the types of communities they serve. Communities have incredible value and a wealth of information to offer UPK providers and P3 schools as they prepare to support younger learners. Community partnerships can help inform providers and schools about community and cultural factors that may influence children's toileting journeys, as well as families' ability to partner with schools. UPK providers and elementary schools have a responsibility to intentionally reach out and welcome input and collaboration from community members and utilize any insights they have to offer related to children and families' context and culture. If a child has a disability that impacts their toileting needs, accommodations could be documented within their individualized education program, or IEP. Potential IEP accommodations could include extra reminders and auditory or visual supports during toileting routines. Toileting-related supports for children with disabilities or special medical needs should also be provided during programs that take place before and after school. So as I said, this graphic that you see on the screen, this is something that you could provide as a visual support for students in your ELO-P programs. For children who are developing toileting independence, who do not have an IEP program, who do not have an IEP program, and school staff should inform families about whether medical needs or physical limitations may be impacting the child's toileting independence. If medical needs or physical limitations are identified, program and school staff should determine if a referral should be made to possibly develop an individual health plan, 504 plan, or an IEP. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the toolkit because it is a really amazing tool for you to use, to look through. It has a lot of extra resources. So the developmentally appropriate toileting practices toolkit is intended to support district and community-based leaders and educators in understanding why supporting toileting independence in developmentally appropriate ways is critical, both to supporting equitable access to UPK programs across settings and to ensuring children's full engagement in preschool through third grade, or P3, learning opportunities. The toolkit offers step-by-step instructions, don't we love that, for developing and implementing developmentally appropriate toileting policies and practices. There are downloadable resources, including sample communications to families and teachers, sample toileting policies and practices, sample toileting guidance, a toileting independence book list for children, educators, and caregivers, and a sample toileting visual chart available in both English and Spanish, which is the chart you see here. At the end of this presentation, there will be QR codes available to give you access to these toileting resources. In order to access the resources, you will need to create an account on California Educators Together, which is linked on the slide. It's very simple and it's very quick. We recommend logging in with Google, as this is the fastest and easiest way. So you click on the blue register button and you follow the directions to create your account. Once you create your account, you should be able to scan the QR codes that we're going to provide and be taken directly to where you'll be able to download the toolkit. There's also the webinar that I mentioned previously with the slide deck. So all of those resources will be available to you if you create your account on California Educators Together. Next slide, please. Napping. So for TK and kindergarten students, the maximum school day is 4 hours, and we wish it was the same for us. There are 2 exceptions to this legislation that allow schools to exceed the 4-hour maximum. Schools that have adopted an early primary program may offer extended day kindergarten, and schools in which students are participating in an expanded learning opportunity program, ELO-P, may have students under their care for more than 4 hours per day. If TK and kindergarten students are in programs that exceed the 4-hour maximum, they must be provided with ample opportunity for both active and quiet activities with an integrated, experiential, and developmentally informed educational program. So some sample quiet activities to do with TK students are giving them time to rest or take a short nap, allowing them to draw or color, reading them stories, engaging them in mindfulness practices like breathing exercises or gentle movement exercises like stretching or yoga, or providing time for social emotional development, such as community circles or show and tell. Having this downtime is crucial for these young students to be given the chance to rest and rejuvenate their minds and bodies to help them feel successful in these types of programs. Next slide, please. This is another hot topic. So here are some positive reinforcement and behavior management strategies from the California Teaching Pyramid. The first is to use visual supports, provide examples, and model expectations. Say positive descriptive acknowledgements, or PDAs, and connect it to a character trait or classroom expectation. For example, you put away your backpack, you're so responsible, or you help keep our classroom clean and safe. Ask open-ended questions. Provide acceptable choices and try first or if-then statements. So for instance, first you do some homework, then we can play outside. Or if you finish your snack, then you can get the paint out yourself. Not sure I would ever let them get the paint out themselves, but that is an example. Teach communication skills and independence. Have consistency and follow through. You can access more information on the Teaching Pyramid website, which is included on this slide. Next slide, please. We are also taking steps to support multilingual learners in UPK. According to the Migration Policy Institute, 59% of California children from birth to age 5 speak a language other than English in the home. 59%. A recommendation from the Master Plan for Early Learning and Care, California for All Kids, that was released in December of 2020, is to create equitable learning and focus on supporting DLLs. With California being home to the nation's largest population of DLLs, the goal was set out to identify and support these children. In October of 2021, the governor signed Assembly Bill 1363 to systematize the identification process of dual language learners, or DLL, in California state preschool programs, or CSPP. The aim of this bill was to develop a systematic approach for providers to identify and support DLLs. The Early Education Division, or EED, has also created a dual language learner support webpage. This webpage will provide technical support, guidance, and resources for the identification, reporting, and support of dual language learners in California state preschool programs. Our goal is that the webpage will be one location for easy access and reference. The DLL support webinar series recordings and PowerPoint presentations, as well as other support materials for the field, will soon be posted on this webpage. And now I'm going to hand it back to Jennifer to review some resources with you.
Thanks so much, Nicole. All right. So these resources, as Nicole mentioned earlier, we have a lot of things on California Educators Together, and I saw that Jim put that webpage in the chat for us. So we use what's called the UPK and P3 group, and that group was created to share resources and guidance for local educational agencies to use to prep for their implementation of universal pre-kindergarten. And documents in that group have been compiled by the California Department of Education and its partners. So once you join, you can even upload things into California Educators Together. So the UPK P3 group is open to everyone, state and local implementers, leaders, practitioners, and anyone who works with anyone in the early elementary school settings or TK. And it is free to make an account, as Nicole said earlier. So on that web page on California Educators Together, we have toolkits So Nicole went into great detail on the toileting toolkit, but we also have a transition to elementary school toolkit, and that is available in both English and Spanish. And we also have a lot of webinars that we've hosted that we put all of the slides, and if we do have a recording, we post that on California Educators Together. So we've had the importance of play, and we have a series on centering and cultivating the Black workforce to strengthen the preschool through third grade alignment. We've had webinars on the budget. As Nicole mentioned, we had a webinar specifically on the toileting practices toolkit, and we will have another webinar this Thursday on fostering equity-grounded emotional relationships that reduce the use of exclusionary discipline in P3. So that's on Thursday. So we have webinars. They tend to be in the afternoon, but sometimes, so our P3 webinars tend to be in the afternoon around 3:30 to 5, which I think is our time on for the webinar this Thursday. All right, the next slide. So this is the QR code that Nicole had mentioned. So if you don't have an account, you can go here, create a free account, and you can access all of the different UPK materials. As I stated on the last slide, we have all of our P3 webinars posted on there, and we've got over 200 pages of universal pre-kindergarten template guidance from the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Implementation and Planning and Implementation Support Grant. So that is all there in the web page. And then on the next slide, we also have another group that is the Expanded Learning Program statewide group. And so one of those QR codes will get you to the statewide group. That top QR code will get you to the statewide group, which is a different group than the UPK P3 group, but it's also on California Educators Together. And then the bottom QR code just brings you directly to all the resources that are in the Expanded Learning Program statewide group. So examples of what you can find in that group are the Long Beach Unified School District TK developmentally appropriate spaces video and PowerPoint presentation, and they are our featured spotlight later on today. We've got the ELO-P best practices for younger students, and that's for transitional kindergarten and kindergarten. And then there's the expanded learning for TK and K students staff capacity building. So that was a pretty cool tool that Nicole and I went through prior to this presentation. And then as we mentioned a lot, because there were a lot of questions when TK came out about toileting. So we tried to be responsive as a state and came up with that toileting toolkit that can be used for kids like up to 8 years old, because sometimes kids have accidents. So we have that toileting toolkit. All right. And I think that is it. The next slide. Yes. So that is everything that we have prepared. So thank you so much for having us and for all of your support with children and families.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Nicole and Jennifer, for this incredible presentation on how folks can support our early learners in general. I'm sure I was taking notes of how to deeper connect with my nieces and nephews and just other younger littles that, you know, we have in our communities. But specifically, I just wanted to acknowledge, right, the presentation, if you joined us mid-presentation, we will have this, we are recording, and so this will be available for folks to watch from the beginning. And Nicole and Jennifer walked us through an intro to Universal Pre-K and the connection to the Expanded Learning Opportunities program. They also walked us through the PTKLP, which stands for Preschool Transitional Kindergarten Learning Foundations, and also introduce new learning foundations, right, that were recently added. So definitely recommend spending some time in some of those resources that were shared. And then also a huge highlight, right, were the strategies and promising practices that our expanded learning practitioners can use to support transitional kindergarten youth in our ELO-P programs. And so, and then wrapped it up with these highly valuable resources. And so we have the link for folks to make an account in that one website to gain access to all of the webinars, the toolkits that Nicole and Jennifer mentioned and whatnot. So thank you again, Nicole and Jennifer, for this wonderful presentation. And I will now I'll now open it up for our field spotlight, promising practices in action. And one of the key resources, right, that Jennifer had briefly mentioned was resources from Long Beach Unified. And so we have them here. Long Beach is in the house and ready to share some of their promising practices in action to support young learners in expanded learning. So I'll pass it off to Sarah Forrester, who's the director of the Child Development Centers in the Long Beach Unified School District, and to Dr. Jennifer Prager, who's an assistant director of the Early and Expanded Learning Office, also at the Long Beach Unified School District. So go ahead and Sarah and Dr. Jennifer, please take it away.
Thank you so much for having us. We are here to discuss promising practices and supporting our youngest learners. Dr. Jennifer Prager and I are honored to share the collaborative efforts of so many in Long Beach Unified. So we are just here representing. Next slide, please. One more. Yeah, perfect. So our goal within Long Beach Unified is really to center joy for all of our early learners in our expanded learning programs. And this goal we keep at the center of all of the work we do with everybody that touches the lives of the early learners within our programs. We see this as a non-negotiable. Within Long Beach, we are able to provide opportunities to expand the learning day from 3 hours up to a total of 9 hours. So we have some of our earliest learners at school with us for 9 hours. Doing this, it's really important for us to use a multi-departmental approach. In LEAs, sometimes there can be silos that make this really challenging. And so our goal through the Child Development Center, through our Early and Expanded Learning Office, and through our birth through 3rd grade office, we are really breaking down the silos and going cross-departmental. Next slide, please. So today we're going to share 3 practices that really center us in the work that we do with our early learners. Practice 1 is the refreshed learning environments. And so I think in the link in the slide before, you saw an appropriate, developmentally appropriate space that we've created specifically for our early learners. And so in 2022-23, Long Beach Unified was able to do a furniture refresh. So all of our TK and K classrooms were reimagined. And so they're all aligned with Eckers. And we refreshed 54 school sites, 280 classrooms in 30 days over the summer. No small feat, but something we're really proud of. Those are our TK and Kinder classrooms, and was included in the expanded learning classrooms as well. So those all got refreshes that are targeted for early learners. In addition to that, environments, indoor and outdoor materials. So we refocused on the importance of the outdoor learning environment, mirroring that of the indoor learning environment. Every site within our LEA was provided standardized equipment for outdoor early learning. And it focused on gross motor skills and fine motor skills. And then we thought, like, what do we do with the storage of that material? So every site also received a shed to keep the trikes and all of the things, all of the manipulatives, store those each night. And then, so it's typically on the playground. Art supplies, we have just making sure that we focus that joy in the classroom on art. And we heard in the presentation right before us the importance of that fine motor skills and the pre-writing skills, and a lot of that comes through art. So in the next slide, you're going to see kind of an array of pictures that support our practice one, just so that you can kind of see what we are talking about. So next slide, please. And they're just going to click through some pictures. The preschool and early learning, kindergarten, all got dramatic play areas, age appropriate outdoor playground space. Just bringing in some pictures of joy in that space. Restriping playground so that there's trike lanes and gross motor areas. Go ahead. One more. So the building blocks and stepping stones were part of the outdoor learning that was purchased, balance beams, and so really working on, like I said, the fine and gross motor skills. All right, I will turn it over. Oh, one more. I am going to turn it over to an amazing counterpart of mine, Dr. Jennifer Prager, who is going to walk you through the next two practices.
Hi, everyone. Awesome to be here. I'm going to focus on practice 2 and 3. Our second practice is our emphasis on literacy. And one thing that we really made sure that we were addressing is that our the literacy, the books, the resources we were providing were culturally relevant and age appropriate, because we understand that if we want to develop students who love reading, and we want to develop that level of agency and understanding through storytelling, this happens through affirming identities. And so we know that students need to see themselves in book to actualize opportunity for themselves, and to make sense of stories, and to make connections to the richness that their own family and culture provides. So that is one emphasis with the way that we provided books to all of our programs, and then with a focus on read alouds. So how can we not only provide the resources, but model how to interact with the resources, and then also what connections take us through the stories and then beyond the stories in the activities and the engagement that we provide for students. So we have some really awesome pictures on that next slide that show some of our resources that we have. So what we did was we partner with Scholastic, and through Scholastic, we use a series called Rising Voices. And we will talk about in our third practice, professional development, but using a resource like this requires some training behind it. So we want to make sure that our staff is equipped with that, and they all display their books in different ways. And we make sure that we provide the necessary furniture for that. And then it's just fun to look at kids engaging in reading, right? So there's some real joy. That was our goal, to bring joy. It also builds relationships. It creates connections. So we have these little libraries that are created in our rooms. And then finally, our practice 3 is, in order to do anything really well, we understand that we have to ground ourselves in whatever professional development is necessary to build the capacity of our staff. And so one thing that we make sure we do in Long Beach is provide that ongoing training, whether it is how to really, if we give you all of this outdoor equipment, how do we make sure that you know how to maximize it with your students? The same with our indoor learning areas, because our environments really are a third way of learning, right? They are actually a teacher. We use our environments as a teacher. And so how do we make sure that we give the training to that? So we have trained in the read alouds, our district best practices. And then you can see some pictures on this next slide about that, where our PDs do a variety of things. They either kick off a school year, and you can see that's our entire, there's over 400 people in that room where we bring in guest speakers and activities. And so they either kick off or they culminate a school year and just celebrate all of the excellence that we've demonstrated over time. There's specific training for content based on what's needed in different environments. And then there's additionally just ongoing PD. What is it that we need to make sure that we continue to grow and center ourselves? Because in Long Beach, we're really big on developing what we call our adult portrait. So what is our role as adults with our students to make sure that they are where they need to be when they graduate? And as we all know, that begins with our earliest learners, that our earliest learners are always working towards that graduate portrait. And so we as adults have a role to play in that. And how do we capture that and build the capacity of that staff?
And what I hope you see in some of the professional development pictures is that we really center the joy in the students, but also in the adults. So you saw bringing in music and movement, you saw them doing a conga line. So we really try to model the joy that we want to bring to our early learners to what we provide for our staff. And that is hard sometimes in a room with 400 people, but we're able to bring in drumming, we're able to bring in rhythm sticks, we're able to bring in, so things that we're really trying to model what we want for our students in what we're providing in the professional development. And so it's very specific and targeted and intentional in what we do. And so I think we just are really honored to be able to share with you and thinking about centering joy for all of our learners and going across departments. And I think those two have been the biggest pieces to our success thus far. And we're still working and we're still learning, but we are happy to see such a great explosion of our early learners in our expanded learning program. So really just ending with the quote, the first 5 years have so much to do with how the next 80 turn out. And we really focus on the impact that all of the adults working with our early learners have. So thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah and Jennifer. I told you all you were in for a treat today. You're walking away with some of those foundational concepts, diving a little deeper, and then sharing these like really practical resources and strategies on how you can continue to do this work. And so thank you to Jennifer, Dr. Jennifer and Sarah for sharing your knowledge and your journey with us and the highlights of the photos, right? Like that human element that's integrated into our presentations kind of, for me, it connects it back to my why and inspires us and motivates us to continue to do this work. So thank you for your spotlight presentation. I know we are excited to be able to maybe dive a little deeper in breakout rooms with some of the content that we covered today. So I'm going to go ahead and move us forward with a few closing slides and announcements. And then if you're able to stick around, I highly encourage you joining one of the breakout rooms. We'll go over what those options are. It's kind of that choose your own adventure. So before I do that, again, wanting to make sure everyone here has access to our system of support for expanded learning. We don't do these, we don't offer these professional development or capacity building and network opportunities without engaging our system of support for expanded learning. So definitely want to make sure you all have their contact info. As you can see here, this state map of California, we are broken into different regions. And so each region has a really high quality support team to be able to support our leaders and practitioners who are doing this work out on the ground, getting it all done. And sometimes we need access to support and resources and information. And so this is who you might want to contact. Thank you for your participation. If you attended today's workshop, or if you attended all 4 or 2 or 3, whatever, we are really hoping that you can give us your feedback on our fall 2024 Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Academy. Again, highly engage with our feedback. We live that CQI culture and want to hear from you on what are needs as we design our spring academies, and also how we can just make these more accessible, make them more high quality for our participants. So please take a moment. It should only take maybe 3 to 5 minutes to complete our feedback form. I appreciate your time in doing that.